Sure. Good evening, students. So today we will see about geotechnical engineering. What are the basic concepts of geotechnical engineering and all? So I am sharing the screen. You see me whether it is visible to you or not. I hope it is visible to you. So the name of the subject is geotechnical engineering one, and the subject code is 19 PBC 54 as per our university. So firstly, 2 marks questions we will see as per exam point of view, starting with module 1. So define three phase system of soil. So how you will define soil as a three-phase system? So soil as a three-phase system consists of solid particles, water and air. That is V is equal to VA plus VW plus VS. What we are assuming? The soil consists of solid The soil consists of solid particles whose velocity is Vs, water whose volume is Vw, and air whose volume is Va. So the total volume V is equal to Va plus Vw plus Vs. So now what are Atterberg limits? Second question. So this already you have seen in the labs also. Atterberg divided the soil into four stages. Number one is the liquid state. Number two, the plastic state. Number three, the semi-solid state. And number four, the solid state. So Atterberg was a scientist. What he did, he divided the entire soil into four stages, namely the liquid state, the plastic state, the semi-solid state, and the solid state. And what he did was he set certain limits for these four stages. That limits are known as consistency limits or Atterberg limits. Next, question number 3, define bulk density and dry density of soil. So how you will define bulk density of soil? It is nothing but ratio of mass of soil to volume of soil. And the SI unit is kg per meter cube. Next is dry density of soil. That is dry mass of soil to the volume of soil. MD by V. So the SI unit is kg per meter cube. How you are defining bulk density? Bulk density is nothing but bulk density of soil, rho, mass of soil to volume of soil, M by V, SI unit is kg per meter cube. Next, dry density of soil, how you are defining? Dry mass of soil to the volume of soil, MD by V, SI unit is kg per meter cube. Next question is define water content and voids ratio. So how you are defining water content and voids ratio? Water content is nothing but small w. It is defined as ratio of weight of water to the weight of solids expressed as a percentage. The small w is small w is ww by wt into 100. Similarly, what is voids ratio? How you are defining voids ratio? E is equal to vv by vs. Now define specific gravity and unit weight of soil. How you will define specific gravity? G In terms of density, we are defining. In terms of unit weight, we are defining gamma is equal to G is equal to gamma S by gamma W. And what is unit weight of soil? Gamma is equal to WD by Vs. Now define density index. How you define density index? Density index is defined as ratio of difference between the voids of the soil in its loosest state, Emax. How you are defining density index? Density index is defined as ratio of difference between the voids of the soil. Difference between the voids of the soil in its loosest state, Emax, and its natural voids ratio, E. Emax minus E to the difference between the voids ratio in the loosest and densest state. So how we are defining density index? Density index is defined as a ratio of difference between the voids of the soil in its loosest state, Emax, and its natural voids ratio, E, to the difference between the voids ratio in the loosest and densest state. Define honeycomb and flocculent. So what is honeycomb? Honeycomb is an arrangement of soil particles having a comparatively loose, stable structure resembling a honeycomb. So how you will define honeycomb structure? A honeycomb is an arrangement of soil particles having a comparatively loose, stable structure resembling a honeycomb. So, which type of structure you are calling it a honeycomb structure? Honeycomb is an arrangement of soil particles having comparatively loose, stable structure resembling a honeycomb. Similarly, which type of structure you are calling it as flocculent? An arrangement composed of flocks of soil particles instead of individual soil particles is known as flocculent structure. Next is define kaolinite and montmorillonite. So how you are differentiating between the two? Kaolinite structure unit is made up of gibbsite sheets joined to silica sheet through the unbalanced oxygen atoms at the apexes of the slices. So how we are defining kaolinite? Kaolinite structure unit is made up of gibbsite sheets joined to silica sheets through the unbalanced oxygen atoms at the apexes of the slices, whereas Montemollinate is the most common clay minerals in expansive clay soil. The mineral is made up of sheet-like units. Now, what do you mean by compaction? Compaction is a process in which the soil particles are artificially rearranged and packed together into a closer state of contact by mechanical means in order to decrease the porosity of the soil and thus increase its dry density. तो कॉम्पैक्शन क्या है? एक ऐसा प्रोसेस है जिसमें क्या हो रहा, पार्टिकल्स को आर्टिफिशियली रीअरेंज कर रहे हैं और पैक कर रहे हैं इनटू क्लोजर स्टेट ऑफ कॉन्टैक्ट बाय मैकेनिकल वे in order to decrease the porosity of the soil and thus increase its dry density. कॉम्पैक्शन की वजह से क्या हो रहा, ड्राई डेंसिटी इंक्रीज हो रही है, पोरेसिटी कम हो रही है सॉइल. What are the factors affecting compaction? The factors affecting compaction are water content, amount and type of compaction, type of soil, addition of admixture. So what are the factors affecting compaction? Number one factors which affect compaction is water content. Number two, amount and type of compaction. Number three, type of soil. Number four, addition of admixtures. Next, define zero air voids line. A line which shows the water content dry density relation for the compacted soil containing a constant percentage air voids is known as zero air voids line. So what is a zero air voids line? A line which shows the water content dry density relation for the compacted soil containing a constant percentage air voids is known as your zero air void line. Differentiate between disperse and coarse grain skeleton structure. Disperse क्या है? एक ऐसा अरेंजमेंट है. Disperse is an arrangement composed of particles having a face to face or parallel orientation. डिस्पर्स या कोर्स ग्रेन स्ट्रक्चर कैसा है? एक ऐसा अरेंजमेंट है कंपोज्ड ऑफ पार्टिकल्स हैविंग फेस टू फेस और पैरेलल ओरिएंटेशन. Coarse grain skeleton is an arrangement of coarse grain forming a skeleton with its interstices partly filled by a relatively loose aggregation of finer soil grains. Now coming to module 3, state Darcy's law. So what Darcy's law state? Darcy's law state that the rate of flow or discharge per unit time is proportional to hydraulic gradient in the laminar flow condition in a saturated soil. So what Darcy's law state? Darcy's law state that the rate of flow और डिस्चार्ज पर यूनिट टाइम. डार्सी लॉ क्या बोलता? जो रेट ऑफ फ्लो है या फिर डिस्चार्ज पर यूनिट टाइम है इज प्रोपोर्शनल टू हाइड्रोलिक ग्रेडियंट. कि Darcy's law state that a rate of flow of discharge Q is proportional to hydraulic gradient I, which is nothing but H by L. In order to remove this constant, a new constant is included called K, coefficient of permeability. Define superficial velocity and coefficient of percolation. Superficial velocity VD, how you are defining? It is defined as ratio of Q by A. And what is coefficient of percolation? The seepage velocity is proportional to the hydraulic gradient. It is known as coefficient of percolation. Define permeability and coefficient of permeability. Permeability is defined as seepage of water to soil. So what is permeability? Permeability is nothing but seepage of water to soil. Coefficient of permeability is defined as average velocity of flow that will occur through the cross-sectional area of soil under hydraulic gradient. Coefficient of permeability क्या है? Average velocity of flow that will occur through the total cross-sectional area of soil under the hydraulic gradient. Define discharge velocity and seepage velocity. So how you are defining discharge velocity and seepage velocity? Discharge velocity VD is given by Q by A, whereas Vs is equal to Q by AV. Discharge velocity Vd is equal to Q by A. Seepage velocity Vs is equal to Q by AV. What are the factors affecting permeability? So the factors affecting permeability are grain size. Factors affecting permeability are grain size. Number two, properties of the pore fluid. Next, voids ratio of the soil, structural arrangement of soil particles. And what you can say on the factors affecting permeability of soil are grain size, कितना size है grain का, that पे properties of pore fluid, properties of pore fluid. Next, voids ratio of the soil and structural arrangement of soil particles. On these factors, it depends. Now, module 4 defines shear strength of soil. Shear strength of soil is the resistance to deformation. Shear strength of soil is the resistance to deformation by continuous shear displacement of soil particles by the action of shear stress. So, how we are defining shear strength of soil? Shear strength of soil is the resistance to deformation by continuous shear displacement of soil particle by the action of shear stress. How you are defining shear strength of soil? Shear strength of soil is the resistance to deformation by continuous shear displacement of soil particle by the action of shear stress. Define thixotrophy and sensitivity. The phenomena of strength loss or strength gain with no change in volume or water is known as thixotrophy. So how you are defining thixotrophy? The phenomena of strength loss or strength gain. Either it may be strength loss or strength gain. with no change in volume or water is known as thixotrophy. So how we are defining thixotrophy? ऐसा फिनोमेना जिसमें स्ट्रेंथ लूज भी हो सकती या गेन भी हो सकती, तो अगर चेंज क्या नहीं हो रहा, वॉल्यूम और वाटर चेंज नहीं हो रहा, दैट इज नॉट थीसोट्रोपी. Sensitivity is the ratio of unconfined compressive strength in the natural or undisturbed state to that in the remolded state without change in water content. Sensitivity is different. Sensitivity क्या है? Ratio of unconfined compression strength in the natural or undisturbed state to that in remolded state without change in water content. So what are the factors affecting shear strength of soil? So the factors affecting shear strength of soil are soil composition. कैसे है soil? That is important. Soil composition. Next, initial state. How is the initial state of the soil? Number three, structure. So three factors are there on which shear strength of soil depends: soil composition, initial state, and structure. Now, what are the laboratory methods to determine shearing resistance of soil? So the laboratory method to determine shearing strength of soil are direct shear test, direct direct shear test, triaxial shear test, unconfined compression test, and Owen shear test. So what are the laboratory methods to determine shear resistance of soil means? चार टेस्ट है: direct shear test, triaxial shear test, unconfined compression test, and Owen shear test. What are the different types of shear test based on drainage condition? ड्रेनेज कंडीशन के हिसाब से कौन से टेस्ट है? अनड्रेन टेस्ट और क्विक टेस्ट, consolidated undrained test, and drain test. Define consolidation. So what is consolidation? A compression resulting from a long-term static load and the consequent escape of pore water is known as consolidation. Consolidation क्या है? एक ऐसा compression resulting from a long-term static load and the consequent escape of pore water is known as consolidation. क्या है कंसल्टेशन? ऐसा कॉम्प्रेशन जो कि रिजल्ट कर रहा लॉन्ग टर्म स्टैटिक लोड पे, एक ऐसा लोड है बहुत दिनों से स्टैटिक है, लेकिन इसकी वजह से कॉम्प्रेशन प्रोड्यूस हो रहा और कंसिक्वेंट एस्केप ऑफ पोर वाटर, दैट इज नोन एज कंसल्टेशन. सो व्हाट आर द अजम्पशन इन टर्जीकी's theory? Assumption मेरे तरह की theory are the soil is homogeneous and fully saturated. First is the how is the soil? The soil is homogeneous and fully saturated. Next assumption is the soil particles and water are incompressible. तो दो assumption है टर्जी की theory के. फर्स्ट है कि soil homogeneous है, सेम है ऑलमोस्ट, एंड फुल्ली सैचुरेटेड है, पानी भरे हुआ है उसमें. सेकेंड assumption is the soil particles and water are incompressible. क्या assume कर रहे हैं? soil particles और जो पानी है वो incompressible. Define coefficient of compressibility and coefficient of volume change. So coefficient of compressibility AY is equal to minus delta E by delta E. So how we are defining coefficient of compressibility? AY is equal to minus delta E by delta sigma, coefficient of compressibility. And coefficient of volume change, how we are defining MV? It is defined as change in the volume of a soil per unit of initial volume. Coefficient of volume change MV is defined as change in the volume of a soil per unit of initial volume due to given increase in the pressure. So what are the methods to find consolidation settlement? So the consolidation settlement can be computed by two ways. Number one, method one is using coefficient of volume change. First is coefficient of volume change. Number two, using Voigt's ratio. So consolidation settlements can be computed by two methods. Number one is using coefficient of volume change. नंबर टू यूजिंग वॉइड्स रेशियो. तो दो तरीके से आप मालूम कर सकते हैं कंसोलिडेशन सेटलमेंट. पहला है कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वॉल्यूम चेंज and second is using Voigt's ratio. Last question is define primary and secondary consolidation. So how we are defining primary and secondary consolidation? The reduction in volume of soil, which is due to squeezing out of water from voids, is called primary consolidation. कैसा define करें primary consolidation? The reduction in volume of a soil. जो सॉइल है उसका वॉल्यूम कम हो रहा, किस वजह से हो रहा? द रिडक्शन इन वॉल्यूम ऑफ सॉइल विच इज ड्यू टू स्क्वीजिंग आउट ऑफ वाटर फ्रॉम voids is called primary consolidation. Similarly, the reduction of all excess hydrostatic pressure to zero, some compression of soil takes place slow, is called secondary consolidation. See here, there's a big difference between primary consolidation and secondary consolidation. Listen here, what is primary consolidation? The reduction in volume of soil. पानी का जो वॉल्यूम है वो कम हो रहा है, किस वजह से हो रहा? ड्यू टू स्क्वीजिंग आउट ऑफ वाटर फ्रॉम वॉइड्स. वॉइड्स क्या कर ले रहे हैं? पूरा पानी खींच ले रहे हैं, उसकी वजह से वॉल्यूम कम हो रहा. दैट इज नोन एज प्राइमरी कंसोलिडेशन. बट सेकेंडरी कंसोलिडेशन में क्या हो रहा? द रिडक्शन ऑफ ऑल एक्सेसिव हाइड्रोस्टैटिक प्रेशर to zero. Some compression of soil takes very slow. इसका consideration क्या हो रहा? Reduction in volume of soil and due to squeezing out. Reduction in the volume of soil which is due to squeezing out of water, that is the primary consolidation. Secondary consolidation में क्या हो रहा? The reduction of all excessive hydrostatic pressure to zero is known as your secondary consolidation. So now we will go to 8 marks questions. With the help of phase diagram, define the following terms: air content, relative density, dry density, and saturated density. So this is a three-phase diagram in which air is present, water is present, and solids is present or soil is present. So the total volume is V. If we take the volume from air to water, it is volume of voids, and Vs is the volume of solids. Or if you separate it out, it will be volume of water VA, volume of water VW, volume of air VA, volume of solids VS. Similarly, weight of air, weight of water WW, weight of solids WS. But WA is equal to 0 because the weight of air is 0. So your WW becomes equal to WV, that is weight of voids. Similarly, it is equal to here, right side air plus water will give you volume of voids. The entire is volume V. Now, what do you mean by air content? It is defined as volume of air voids to the total volume of voids. So how we are defining air content? It is defined as volume of voids VV to the total volume of voids V. एयर कंटेंट क्या है? कितना वॉल्यूम एयर voids का है to the total volume of voids. This is your air content. Relative density. How you are defining relative density? It is the ratio of difference between the voids ratio of cohesion and less soil. Relative density क्या है? It is the ratio of difference. It is the ratio of difference between the voids ratio of cohesion soil in its loose state and existing natural state to the difference between its voids ratio in the loosest and densest state. Next is dry density. How you will define dry density? The dry density is the mass of solid per unit of total volume before drawing of the soil mass. Dry density rho is nothing but mdu by v, mass of soil solids before drying. Sorry. Last is saturated density. It is defined as the ratio of total soil mass of saturated sample and its total volume. So how we are defining saturated density? It is defined as the ratio of total soil mass of saturated sample to its total volume. With usual notations, we need to prove S is equal to Wg and rho d is equal to 1 minus neta I into G gamma W divided by 1 plus Wg. So it is somewhat complicated. You see it carefully. So E, that is what's the ratio, is equal to Wg by Sr, or your E into SR will become Wg. But for fully saturated soil, SR degree of saturation is 1, that is 100%. So your E is nothing but VV by VS. So VV in place of VS, what you can write? In place of, E equal to V by Vs. So in place of Vs, what you can write? W into SR divided by G into gamma W. Because G is equal to Ws by Vs into gamma W. So your Vs will be equal to W into SR into G into gamma W. Now E is equal to capital G into VV by Ws into WW by VW, where WW by VW is gamma W. So your E equal to G into V by VW into WW by WS. W is nothing but water content. WW by WS. Similarly, Vs is nothing but VW by Vs. Degree of saturation S. So your E becomes W into G by S, or your SE will becomes WG. Now one more relation, gamma D is equal to 1 minus neta A into G gamma W divided by 1 plus WG. So from the three phase diagram we have V is equal to VA plus VW plus VS. For three phase diagram or system, capital V is equal to volume of A plus volume of water plus volume of soil. It's dividing throughout by V, VV equal to VA by V, VW by V, VS by V. So it comes out to VA by V is neta I. So it can cancel 1 equal to neta I plus VW by V, VS by V. So 1 minus neta equal to VW by V plus VS by V. Or 1 minus neta is equal to W by gamma W into V. Or similarly, here also what we have done, Ws by G into gamma W into V. But your G, that is specific gravity, is equal to Ws by rho S into rho W. Therefore, your Vs will be equal to volume of solid equal to Ws divided by G into gamma W. And Vw is equal to Ww by gamma W. But your water content is Ww by Ws. Therefore, Ww is equal to W into S. So 1 minus neta I W into Ws. दोनों भी थे तो उसके it is 1 minus neta is equal to W into Ws, gamma W into V plus Ws into G gamma W. Wow, G gamma W 1 more. So your gamma D is equal to weight of dry soil by volume equal to WA plus Ws divided by V. We are assuming W equal to 0, so it becomes gamma D is equal to W by V. Now substituting gamma D value in equation 1, what will become? 1 minus neta equal to W into gamma D by gamma W plus gamma D by G gamma W. Or if you take, it will be 1 minus neta equal to G into W into gamma T plus gamma D divided by G gamma W. If you do the calculation, it comes out to be gamma D plus into bracket 1 plus WG divided by G gamma W. Or your 1 minus neta A is equal to G gamma W equal to gamma D into 1 plus WG. Finally, so gamma D is equal to 1 minus neta I into G into gamma D divided by 1 plus WG. So this completes our derivation about these two derivation which carries 8 marks. That is SE, degree of saturation multiplied by Watts ratio. E is equal to water content into specific gravity. Similarly, one more relation is there, that is gamma D is equal to 1 minus eta A into G gamma W divided by 1 plus WG. This also we have understood, but still you have to practice it in order to become perfect. So in the next class, we will see briefly explain common clay minerals in soil with their suitability. Clay minerals have, have clay minerals have two basic structural units. Let it be. We will continue this in the next class only from module 2. If you have any doubts, queries, you can just pin me or you just text me on WhatsApp or even on my number. My phone number is 8553171859. Next is, if you have any doubt, you can just mail it at nagimed@given.university. So this is the introduction part of the earthquake, geotechnical engineering one, basic geotechnical engineering one. Started with initial वो कॉमा जा रहे हैं आप तक ओके so 1 minus neta is equal to g gamma w divided by 1 plus w s you put here. Okay, so in the next class we will continue the remaining questions. I hope you have a good day. Thank you one and all. If you have any doubt, you can just text me or even call me. My number is with you. Okay, have a nice day. We will stop it now. So I'm ending the meeting. Hope you have a nice day. We will get back to you tomorrow.